The stars looked different from up here. OK stood in the command center of his hunting ship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the screens. 300 years he had hunted across the galaxy. 300 years, and never once had he failed to bring down his target. This job would be easy. The contract said so. The merchant collective wanted a small colony removed from a newly discovered world. The species called themselves humans. According to the data files, they were weak creatures. Soft skin, no natural armor, no claws or fangs worth mentioning. The gravity on their world was slightly higher than average, but nothing his pack couldn't handle. OK looked at his warriors, 12 of the finest hunters in the galaxy. Each one stood 3 meters tall, covered in thick armored plates that could stop most energy weapons. Their claws could tear through steel. Their neural implants linked them together into a perfect hunting unit. They had killed on 100 worlds, brought down prey that ranged from small creatures to massive beasts that shook the ground when they walked. "Begin descent," OK ordered. His voice was a deep rumble that made the air vibrate. The ship dropped through the atmosphere, invisible to primitive sensors. They aimed for a remote region on one of the smaller land masses. The locals called it the Korean Peninsula. Intelligence suggested a small military outpost operated there, nothing significant. They would eliminate it quickly, then move to the larger population centers. The ship touched down in a forest clearing just before dawn. The air was cold and wet. OK breathed it in, analyzing it with his enhanced senses. This world smelled of life. Too much life. The data hadn't mentioned how many different species lived here. He could smell hundreds of different creatures in this forest alone. "Spread out," he commanded. "Standard hunting formation. Remember, the prey is soft and weak. Quick kills, no complications." His warriors moved into the trees, silent despite their size. Decades of training made them ghosts when they wanted to be. They had hunted across galaxies. This world would be no different. Lieutenant Park checked his watch for the 3rd time in an hour. The morning patrol was usually boring, but something felt wrong today. He couldn't explain it. Just a feeling in his gut, the kind his instructors had told him to never ignore. "Sir, you okay?" Corporal asked. She walked beside him, carrying her medical pack and rifle with easy confidence. They had served together for 5 years. She could read his moods better than anyone. "Something's off," said quietly. He looked at the other 2 soldiers in their patrol. "Stay alert, keep your spacing." They moved through the forest trail in silence. This was restricted territory closed to civilians. Most days they saw nothing but birds and deer, but today the forest was too quiet. No birds sang. No small animals rustled in the bushes. Raised his fist, signaling a stop. His team froze instantly. He knelt down, studying the ground. There in the soft earth beside the trail was a print. It looked like a footprint, but it was massive. 3 long toes with claw marks at the tips. Whatever made it was heavy, much heavier than any animal native to Earth. "Look at this," he whispered. She moved up beside him, her eyes widening as she saw the track. "That's not from any animal I know." Activated his radio. "Delta 7 to command, we have an unknown contact in Sector 4, requesting." A sound split the air. It was like nothing had ever heard before. A roar that made his bones vibrate, that spoke of hunger and violence and predatory joy. It came from the trees ahead. "Contact front," shouted, bringing his rifle up. The thing that emerged from the forest was a nightmare. It stood twice as tall as a man, covered in dark armored plates that looked like they could stop a tank round. Its eyes glowed with a strange inner light. In its massive hands, it carried a weapon that crackled with energy. Behind it, more shapes appeared, 12 of them surrounding his team. OK studied the 4 small creatures before him. They held primitive projectile weapons, pointing them at his warriors with shaking hands. He could smell their fear. Good. Fear made prey slow, made them easy to kill. "Drop your weapons," OK said in their language. The neural implant made translation instant. You cannot fight us. Surrender and die quickly. The one in front, the male with the hard eyes, did something OK didn't expect. He smiled. You really don't know what you've done, do you? The human said. His voice was steady, no fear in it at all. You've come to our world, you've threatened us, and you think we'll just surrender. You have no choice, OK growled. We have hunted across galaxies. Your species is nothing. Maybe, the human said, but we're not nothing here. This is our world, and on our world we're the ones who do the hunting. Then everything happened at once. The human didn't wait for OK to attack. He opened fire first, his primitive weapon spitting metal projectiles so fast they blurred. But he didn't aim at OK. He aimed at the warrior to OK's left, targeting the weak points where armor plates met. The warrior stumbled, roaring in pain. The female beside him threw something small and round. It exploded with blinding light and deafening sound. OK's neural implants screamed as they tried to filter the sensory overload. By the time his vision cleared, the humans were moving. They didn't run away. They ran sideways, separating, using the trees for cover. They moved with the speed and coordination of a hunting pack, not prey animals. One of them was already behind OK's formation, firing at the warriors from a new angle. Flank them, OK roared. They're just 4, kill them. But killing them proved harder than he thought. The humans knew this forest better than any navigation computer. They used every tree, every ditch, every shadow. They fell back and fired, making his warriors chase them deeper into terrain that favored the small and quick over the large and strong. Another warrior went down, shot in the eye by the human female who seemed to carry endless supplies in her pack. She grabbed the wounded warrior's weapon as he fell, adding it to her own firepower. This wasn't how hunts were supposed to go. Prey ran, prey hid, prey died quickly. These humans fought back. His team led the aliens deeper into the forest, toward a ravine they knew well. His radio crackled with incoming signals. Command had heard the gunfire. Reinforcements were coming. They just needed to survive until then. How's your ammunition? He called out. Running low, she replied. But I picked up one of their weapons, still figuring out how it works. Fall back to the rally point. We're not trying to win this fight, just slow them down. But even as he said it, felt something change inside him. These creatures had come to his world. They had threatened his home. They thought humans were weak, easy prey. They were going to learn different. Captain stood in the command center, listening to the radio chatter. The patrol had made contact with unknown hostiles, armed, aggressive, extremely dangerous. But they were still fighting, still moving, still causing damage to the enemy force. He picked up the phone that connected directly to the president's office. Sir, he said quietly, we have a situation. Unknown alien hostiles have landed in the exclusion zone. They appear to be attempting an invasion. There was a long pause on the other end. How many hostiles? At least 12 in the first group, sir. But our satellites have detected multiple landing sites across the planet, dozens of ships. Another pause. Captain, you have authorization to deploy the elite forces. Show them what happens when you hunt humans on Earth. Smiled, it was not a kind smile. Yes, sir, with pleasure. The sun climbed higher in the sky, but the forest remained cold. OK crouched behind a fallen tree, breathing hard. 3 of his warriors were dead. 3 more were wounded badly enough that they struggled to keep up with the rest of the pack. And the 4 humans who should have been easy prey were still alive, still fighting, still leading them deeper into this cursed forest. Pack leader, one of his warriors called out. We should return to the ship, regroup and call for support. OK wanted to refuse. He had never retreated from prey before, but something was very wrong. These humans fought like nothing he had encountered. They were small and soft, yes, but they were fast and smart, and they refused to quit. Agreed, he finally said. Fall back to the landing site. We need to. A sharp crack echoed through the trees. One of his warriors dropped, a smoking hole through his chest plate. The shot had come from at least 1,000 meters away, through dense forest, hitting a moving target. Sniper, OK roared, get to cover. But there was no cover good enough. Another shot, another warrior down. The human with the rifle was hunting them now, picking them off one by one. Pressed his back against a tree, gasping for air. They had been fighting for 6 hours straight. 6 hours of running, shooting, bleeding. His legs burned, his arms ached, but he couldn't stop, not yet. "Command, this is Delta 7, he spoke into his radio. "We've reduced enemy force to 9 hostiles. They're attempting to retreat to their landing site." "Copy that, Delta 7, the voice of Captain came through. "Reinforcements are 30 minutes out. The unit is deploying. Can you maintain contact?" Looked at his team, was bandaging a wound on her arm while checking her ammunition. The other 2 soldiers looked exhausted but determined. They had trained for this. Not for aliens specifically, but for fighting enemies who were bigger, stronger, better armed. On Earth, humans learned to fight things that could kill them easily. They learned to win anyway. "We can hold them," said. "They think they're the hunters. Time to teach them about Earth." Finished with her bandage and picked up the alien weapon she had captured. She had figured out how to fire it. The energy bolts were powerful, but the weapon was poorly balanced for human hands. Still, it was better than nothing. "You know what's funny?" she said quietly. "They're tired, look at them. They're breathing hard, moving slow. We've been running for 6 hours and they can't keep up." Noticed it too. The aliens were stronger, tougher, but they couldn't match human endurance. Humans evolved to run down prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. These aliens were built for short, violent hunts. They weren't ready for a marathon. "Let's push them harder," said with a grim smile. OK stumbled as his leg gave out. The wound in his thigh was deep, bleeding through the armor. He had been injured before on other hunts, but those prey animals eventually got tired. They eventually slowed down enough to kill. These humans didn't slow down. If anything, they were getting faster. His neural implant beeped with an incoming message. The fleet commander was calling. "OK, report your status," the voice demanded. "The hunt has gone wrong," OK admitted, shame burning in his chest. "The humans are not as the intelligence suggested. They fight with skill and coordination. They have superior knowledge of terrain, and they don't tire." "Impossible, the data clearly shows." "The data is wrong," OK snarled. "I have lost half my pack to 4 humans. 4, they are not prey, they are predators." There was a long silence on the other end. "All packs are experiencing similar difficulties," the commander finally said. "We are adapting our tactics. Hold your position. Reinforcements are coming." But OK knew holding position was suicide. The humans would pick them apart, one by one, if they stayed still. "We move," he told his remaining warriors. "Back to the ship, maximum speed. Forget stealth, just run." They ran. The mighty terror of the galaxy ran from 4 humans. Captain watched the tactical display in the command center. Across the planet, alien landing sites were lighting up with combat. Every site reported the same story. The aliens expected easy prey. They found human soldiers instead. In the mountains, Sergeant Song and his demolition team had collapsed a pass, trapping an entire alien pack in a canyon. They were picking the aliens off with long-range fire, giving them no room to maneuver. In the jungle, Private Lee had been tracking an alien pack for 12 hours. She had already killed 7 of them without the aliens ever seeing her. Her record said she once tracked a target for 72 hours without rest. The aliens would tire long before she did. In the Arctic zone, Major had turned the extreme cold into a weapon. The aliens' armor couldn't handle temperatures that dropped to -40 degrees. Human soldiers, dressed in proper gear, hunted them across the ice while the aliens froze. Tactical officer, Corporal, looked up from her computer station. "Sir, I've intercepted their communications," she said. "They're using quantum encryption, but it's not as good as they think. I've broken about 40% of it." "What are they saying?" "They're panicking, sir. They're calling this world in their language. They're requesting permission to withdraw." Nodded slowly. Earth was most planets that supported life were gentle places, where evolution moved slowly and nothing too dangerous developed. Earth was different. Earth had ice ages and supervolcanoes. It had predators that hunted in packs and prey that learned to fight back. It had weather that could kill in minutes and diseases that wiped out entire species. Humans evolved in that hell. They learned to survive everything the planet threw at them. They learned to hunt the hunters, to outlast anything that chased them, to never give up no matter how hurt or tired they got. These aliens thought they were predators. They should meet a tiger, or a bear, or a shark. Earth had real predators. Humans learned to kill all of them. "Can you broadcast on their frequencies?" asked. "Yes, sir. What do you want to send?" "Tell them this: welcome to Earth. You came here to hunt, but on this planet you're not the apex predator anymore. We are." Heard the explosion in the distance. The alien ship was trying to take off, but's demolition team had anticipated that. They had mined the landing site. The ship managed to get 100 meters off the ground before the engines died, and it crashed back down in flames. The surviving aliens stumbled out of the wreckage. There were only 6 of them left now, including their leader. They formed a defensive circle, weapons pointed outward, waiting for the end. Reinforcements had arrived. 20 soldiers surrounded the aliens, weapons ready, but held up his hand, signaling them to wait. He walked forward alone, until he stood just 10 meters from the alien leader. "You came to our world," said clearly. "You thought we would be easy prey. You were wrong." OK looked at the small human standing before him. The human was covered in dirt and blood. His armor was damaged. He had been fighting for hours, but his eyes were clear and hard and completely without fear. "What are you?" OK asked. It was the only question that mattered now. "We are humans," said. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. We survived predators that made your warriors look small. We survived diseases, famine, disasters that would wipe out most species. And we didn't just survive. We thrived. We became the dominant species on one of the galaxy's harshest worlds." He took a step closer. "You hunt for sport, for money, for glory. We hunt to survive. We've been doing it for 2 million years. You're good at what you do, but we're better. This is our world, our home, and you made the mistake of threatening it." OK lowered his weapon. It was over. For the first time in 300 years he had been beaten. "We surrender," he said quietly. Nodded, smart choice. The battle for Earth had just begun, but the aliens were already learning a valuable lesson. Never hunt on it, and never, ever underestimate humans. The fleet commander stood in his war room, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. 30 hunting packs had been deployed across the planet. 10 had already been destroyed or captured. The remaining 20 were struggling to survive against what should have been easy prey. "Impossible," he muttered. The intelligence was clear: low-level threat, primitive technology, soft biology. His second-in-command, a veteran of 50 campaigns, spoke carefully. "Commander, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. The prey species is proving more dangerous than anticipated." The commander slammed his fist on the console. We have hunted on 1,000 worlds. We do not retreat from prey." "With respect, Commander, I do not think they are prey. Not anymore." Before the commander could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The sensors had detected launches from the planet's surface. Dozens of primitive rockets were climbing toward the fleet. "Evasive action," the commander shouted. "Those missiles cannot possibly." The first rocket struck the nearest ship. It wasn't carrying explosives. It was carrying something else. The ship's shields flickered and died. Its engines shut down. It began falling toward the planet, completely dead in space. "What happened?" the commander demanded. "Electromagnetic pulse," the sensor officer said, voice shaking. "They weaponized their primitive technology. Our ships aren't shielded against it because we never thought prey species would." 3 more ships went dark, falling from orbit. On Earth, Major watched the alien ships fall with satisfaction. His tactical team had identified the weakness in their systems. The aliens relied too heavily on advanced technology. They never considered that sometimes simple weapons worked better. "Sir, we have multiple alien packs moving toward population centers," his operations officer reported. "They're changing tactics. If they can't win in the wilderness, they're going to try urban combat." Nodded, he had expected this. Desperate enemies did desperate things. "Deploy the elite forces to all major cities, full defensive positions, and get me the president. We need to address the public." Across the planet, the elite forces moved into position. These were soldiers trained for the worst conditions imaginable. They had trained in the Sahara Desert, where temperatures hit 60 degrees. They had trained in the Arctic, where cold could kill in minutes. They had trained in jungles so dense you couldn't see 3 meters ahead. They had trained in mountains where the air was too thin to breathe properly. Earth was a harsh teacher. These soldiers had learned every lesson. Sergeant Song led his team through the streets of Seoul. The city had been evacuated, leaving it empty and quiet. Perfect terrain for an ambush. Knew this city like he knew his own heartbeat. He knew every alley, every rooftop, every building that could provide good cover or concealment. "Contact," one of his soldiers whispered. 12 o'clock, 200 meters. Saw them. 5 alien warriors moving down the main street, weapons ready, searching for targets. They were being cautious now. They had learned that humans were dangerous, but they still hadn't learned the most important lesson. On Earth, the environment itself was a weapon. "Proceed with the plan," said quietly into his radio. The aliens advanced past a tall office building. They didn't notice the charges team had placed on the support columns. They didn't notice the timing device counting down. The building came down on top of them. 20 stories of concrete and steel collapsed in a controlled demolition that had designed personally. The aliens never had a chance. "Target eliminated," reported, moving to next position. In the Amazon jungle, Private Lee moved like a ghost. She had been tracking the same alien pack for 18 hours now. They knew she was out there. They knew she was hunting them, but they couldn't find her. That was the thing about humans. They could be patient. They could wait for days, weeks if necessary, for the perfect shot. Other predators relied on speed or strength. Humans relied on patience and precision. Found her position in a tree 200 meters from the alien camp. Through her scope, she could see the pack leader, the one they called OK. He looked exhausted and scared. Good. She had already killed 4 members of his new pack. 4 perfect shots, each one dropping an alien before they even knew she was there. The pack was falling apart from stress and fear. They jumped at every sound, fired at shadows, wore themselves out with paranoia. Humans understood psychological warfare. They had practiced it on each other for thousands of years. Took a slow breath, held it and squeezed the trigger. The pack leader dropped. The other alien scattered, firing blindly into the jungle, was already moving to her next position, invisible in the dense foliage. She could keep this up for days. They couldn't. In the frozen north, Major himself led a special operation. Intelligence suggested the aliens had a command post in the Arctic region, coordinating the attacks. Taking it out would cripple their operations. The temperature was minus 30 degrees. The wind cut like knives. The aliens, built for temperate climates, were suffering badly. Their armor kept them alive but didn't keep them comfortable. They moved slowly, conserving energy, trying not to freeze. His team moved at full speed. They wore proper cold weather gear. They had trained in these conditions for years. The cold wasn't their enemy, it was their ally. Remember, told his soldiers, hit fast, hit hard, and fade away. Don't give them time to react. The cold will do half our work for us. They struck at midnight, when the temperature dropped to -40. Explosives destroyed the alien generators, leaving them without heat or power. Sniper teams picked off sentries. Assault teams breached the command post before the aliens even knew they were under attack. The entire operation took 12 minutes. By the time alien reinforcements arrived, his team was gone, leaving only bodies and burning wreckage behind. Back in the orbital fleet, the commander was receiving reports from all fronts. Every single one was bad. Packs destroyed in the mountains, packs trapped in jungles, packs frozen in the Arctic, packs buried under collapsed buildings in cities. And everywhere always the humans. Small, soft, supposedly weak humans who refused to die, refused to quit, refused to be prey. "Commander," his second said quietly, "we have lost over 100 warriors in less than 24 hours. We have never suffered losses like this. We must withdraw." "If we withdraw, we lose all credibility," the commander growled. "Every species in the galaxy will know that the mighty fled from prey. Better to lose credibility than to lose the entire fleet." The commander knew he was right, but pride was a powerful thing. They had built their reputation on being unstoppable hunters. How could they admit defeat to creatures they had classified as negligible threats? A new alarm sounded. More launches from the planet, but these weren't missiles. They were ships. Human ships, crude and simple compared to technology but functional, and there were dozens of them climbing toward the fleet. "They're counterattacking," the commander said in disbelief. "They have no experience with space combat. This is suicide." But as the human ships approached, the commander realized something terrible. They were using captured weapons and shields. In less than a day, the humans had reverse-engineered alien technology and integrated it into their own ships. "How is this possible?" he whispered. His second-in-command answered quietly. "Because they are not prey, Commander. They are tool users. They are adapters. They take what works and make it better. That is how they survived on there. That is how they will destroy us if we stay." The first human ship opened fire. Its weapons were a mix of human and technology, crude but effective. A cruiser took critical damage, its shields failing under the assault. Then more human ships joined the attack. They didn't fight with elegant tactics or sophisticated strategies. They fought like brawlers, getting in close and trading shots, willing to take damage if it meant landing hits. They fought like survivors. The commander made his decision. "Signal all packs, full retreat to the ships. We are leaving this system." "What about the warriors still on the ground?" "Tell them to reach the landing sites if they can. If not," the commander paused, shame and anger warring in his chest. "If not, tell them to surrender to the humans. We cannot save them." On the ground received the message from command. The aliens were retreating. The battle was over. He looked at his team, was treating wounded soldiers with steady hands. The others were exhausted but alive. They had held the line. Against aliens who were bigger, stronger, and better armed, they had won. "Good work," everyone said. "But stay alert. The war isn't over yet." Captain stood in the command center, watching alien ships flee from Earth orbit. Human ships pursued them, harrying them all the way to the edge of the system. Corporal approached him with a tablet. "Sir, we've been monitoring alien communications. They're broadcasting warnings to the rest of the galaxy, telling others to avoid Earth. They're calling us a species and classifying humans as extreme threat level." Smiled. "Good. Let them spread the word. Let every species in the galaxy know what happens when you come to Earth looking for prey." He looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that had just learned a hard lesson. Earth had been isolated for so long, thinking it was alone in the universe. Now, in a single day, humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They were not victims. They were not prey. They were survivors from a world that tried to kill them every single day. And they had just proven that they could survive anything. OK sat in a human detention facility, hands bound with materials that even his strength couldn't break. Around him sat the survivors of 3 different hunting packs, 27 warriors, all that remained of the 90 who had landed on Earth with such confidence just 2 days ago. 2 days. That was all it took for the galaxy's most feared hunters to be utterly defeated. A human entered the room. It was the same officer from the forest, the one called. He looked tired but satisfied. He carried a data pad and a small medical kit. "My name is Lieutenant Park," he said, speaking in flawless. "I need to ask you some questions." OK looked at him with new eyes. This small creature had hunted him through the forest for hours, had killed half his pack, had shown no fear even when facing enemies twice his size. "How did you learn our language so quickly?" OK asked. Smiled slightly. "Corporal is very good at what she does. She broke your encryption in a few hours. After that, learning the language was easy. We have computers for that." "Impossible. Our encryption is military grade. It would take months to—" "Not for humans," interrupted. "We've been breaking codes for centuries. It's just math and patterns. We're very good at finding patterns." He sat down across from OK. "I need to know about your fleet. How many ships? What weapons? Where are they going?" OK was silent. He wouldn't betray his people. Nodded as if expecting this. "I understand loyalty. It's admirable. But you need to understand something. Your fleet is not leaving this system. You cannot stop a battle fleet with your primitive ships." "Can't we?" Pulled up a video on his data pad and turned it so OK could see. It showed a space battle. Human ships, crude and rough compared to vessels, swarmed around the alien fleet. They didn't fight with elegant tactics. They fought like pack hunters, surrounding individual ships and tearing them apart with overwhelming firepower. But what shocked OK most was the weapons the human ships used. They were weapons, captured, modified, and integrated into human systems in less than 2 days. "How?" OK whispered. "We're very good at taking things that work and making them better," said. "It's how we survived on Earth. We saw fire and learned to control it. We saw tools and learned to make them. We saw your weapons and learned to use them. That's what humans do. We adapt." In orbit, Captain commanded the newly formed human defense fleet from a modified cargo ship that now bristled with captured alien weapons. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't elegant. But it worked. "Sir, the alien fleet is trying to break through our blockade," his tactical officer reported. "Let them try," said calmly. "All ships maintain formation. Focus fire on their lead vessels. Show them what happens when you underestimate Earth." The battle unfolded in the black silence of space. Ships, sleek and powerful, tried to force their way past the human blockade. But the humans had learned quickly. They used captured shields to protect their ships. They used captured sensors to track enemy movements. They used captured weapons to strike back. And they had something the aliens didn't: desperation. This was their home, their planet. They would die before they let invaders escape to bring back reinforcements. A cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. Then another. The alien fleet began to scatter, breaking formation, each ship trying to save itself. "They're running," the tactical officer said with satisfaction. "Don't let them," ordered. "I want at least one ship captured intact, preferably their command ship. We need more technology to study." The human fleet pursued, relentless and unforgiving. On Earth, Major coordinated the global defense from the command center. Reports came in from every continent. Alien warriors were surrendering in groups. Some tried to hide, but there was nowhere to hide on Earth. This was humanity's home ground. They knew every mountain, every forest, every desert. "Sir, we have a situation," Corporal said. "I've intercepted a transmission from the alien fleet. They're calling for reinforcements from the merchant collective. A larger fleet could arrive in 2 weeks." Nodded slowly. "Then we have 2 weeks to prepare. How many alien ships have we captured?" 3 intact, 7 damaged but repairable. We also have hundreds of alien weapons and armor suits. Get our best engineers on it. I want everything reverse engineered and understood before that fleet arrives. And I need you to send a message. To who, sir? To the entire galaxy. Let them see what happened here. Let them see what humans can do when we're threatened. Worked at her console for several minutes, then nodded. I've tapped into their communication network. I can broadcast on all major frequencies. What do you want to say? Thought carefully. This message would be humanity's introduction to the galaxy. It needed to be right. "Send this," he said, "to all species in the galactic community. This is Major of the Earth Defense Force. 2 days ago they came to our world to hunt us. They believed we were prey. They were wrong. We are humans. We evolved on a where survival was never guaranteed. We learned to hunt the predators that hunted us. We learned to outlast anything that chased us. We learned to turn our environment into a weapon. They came to Earth as hunters. They left as prey. Consider this a warning. Earth is not to be invaded. Humans are not to be hunted. If you come to our world with hostile intent, you will learn what we learned millions of years ago. Only the strong survive. And we are very, very strong." Broadcast the message, along with video footage from the battles. Footage of human soldiers taking down enemies twice their size. Footage of humans fighting for days without rest. Footage of aliens running in terror from creatures they had dismissed as weak. The message reached the merchant collective within hours. It spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every species saw it. Every species understood. Earth was not prey. Earth was dangerous. Back in the detention facility, continued his interrogation of OK. "Tell me about the merchant collective," he said. "Why did they want humans eliminated?" OK was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. "They wanted your planet, the resources, the location. Humans were just in the way. They offered us a fortune to remove you. And you agreed because you thought it would be easy." "Yes." OK looked down at his bound hands. "I have hunted for 300 years, on 100 worlds, against 1,000 species. I never failed, until now." "What made you think we would be easy?" "The data said you were weak, fragile, short-lived. It said you had no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities." Laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "We are fragile, we do die easily, and we have no claws or fangs, but that's exactly why we're dangerous. We had to get creative to survive. We had to build weapons because we didn't have claws. We had to build shelters because we didn't have thick fur. We had to learn to work together because alone we would die. Everything that should have made us weak made us strong instead." He stood up. "You came to Earth thinking you would hunt prey, but on Earth there's a saying. We don't have predators and prey. We just have survivors and the dead. And humans learned a long time ago to always be survivors." OK looked up at the human. "What will you do with us?" "That depends on you. We don't kill prisoners. That's not who we are, but we need information. We need to understand the galaxy we just entered. We need to know who our friends are and who our enemies are. And if I help you, then maybe someday you can go home. Maybe you can tell your people what you learned here, that humans aren't prey. We're not victims. We're the species that survived everything Earth threw at us. And now we're ready to meet the galaxy on our own terms." OK thought about his pride, his reputation, his people. Then he thought about the 27 warriors in this room, all that remained of 90. He thought about the 100 more who died on this because someone didn't do proper intelligence gathering. "I will help you," he said quietly. I will tell you everything I know about the galaxy, about the Merchant Collective, about the other species, about the threats you will face." Nodded. "Thank you, that's the smart choice." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing, okay? You asked me what humans are. I'll tell you. We're the species that turned wolves into dogs. We're the species that climbed down from the trees and decided to walk on two legs so our hands would be free to carry tools. We're the species that looked at the stars and said we're going there someday. We're survivors, hunters, tool makers, and dreamers. We're humans. And we just announced ourselves to the galaxy." OK watched the human leave. For the first time in 300 years, he felt something he had never experienced before. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he had found a species worthy of respect. A species that could teach the galaxy what real strength looked like. A species from who refused to be anyone's prey. 3 days after the invasion began, the command ship floated dead in space, surrounded by human vessels. Its shields were down. Its weapons were offline. Its crew was trapped. Captain stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the alien vessel through the "Send the boarding teams," he ordered. Lieutenant led the assault team. Behind him came, and 20 other soldiers. They wore captured alien armor, modified to fit human bodies. They carried a mix of human and alien weapons. In just 3 days, humans had learned to use everything they brought. The boarding action was quick and brutal. The remaining warriors fought hard, but they were exhausted and demoralized. Their pack leader was captured. Their fleet was scattered. They had nowhere to run. In 30 minutes, the command ship belonged to Earth. Found the fleet commander on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. The commander was massive, even larger than OK, with scars from 100 battles. He stood straight and proud, even in defeat. "I am Fleet Commander On of the Empire," he said, in heavily accented human language. "I demand to be treated according to the galactic conventions of war." "You'll be treated fairly," replied. "That's more than you planned for us." On looked at the human officer with something like respect. "You fight well for prey species." "We're not prey," said quietly. "We never were, you just didn't do your homework." Moved through the bridge, her medical scanner in hand. "Sir, they have wounded. Permission to treat them." Nodded. "Go ahead." On watched in surprise as the human medic began treating his wounded officers. "You would help us, after we came to destroy you." "We're not monsters," said as she worked. "You're prisoners now. That means we're responsible for your welfare. That's how humans do things." The commander was silent for a long moment, then he spoke too. "I have fought across the galaxy for 50 years. I have faced the fiercest warriors of 100 species, but I have never seen anything like you humans. You fight with no regard for your own safety. You never stop. You never give up. What makes you this way?" Thought about how to explain it. Earth made us this way. Our world tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, predators, diseases, famines, droughts, floods, volcanoes. For 2 million years we survived all of it. We learned to adapt or die. Most species that couldn't adapt went extinct. But humans, we learned to thrive. We learned to turn every disadvantage into an advantage. You came to our world thinking we would be easy prey, but you forgot something important. On Earth, there are no easy prey. On the planet below, Major addressed the United Nations Assembly via video link. Leaders from every nation watched as he gave his report. "The immediate threat is over," he said. "We have captured or destroyed the invasion force. We have secured their technology, but this is just the beginning. The Merchant Collective sent them, and when this force doesn't report back, they'll send more." "What do you recommend, Major?" the Secretary General asked. "We prepare for war. Real war on a galactic scale. We have 2 weeks, maybe 3, before the next attack comes. We use that time to build weapons, train soldiers, and learn everything we can from our prisoners. Can we win against an entire interstellar civilization?" Smiled grimly. Ma'am, 3 days ago, everyone thought we would be easily defeated by a small hunting party. We destroyed them. Now imagine what we can do with preparation and proper equipment. We're humans. We don't know how to quit. In the command center, Corporal continued her work of intercepting alien communications. She had become frighteningly good at it. The encryption that should have taken months to break fell to her in hours. Now, she was tapping into communications from other species, learning about the galaxy humanity had just entered. "Sir," she called to, "I've got something interesting. Multiple species are broadcasting messages to Earth. They want to talk." "About what?" "They're afraid, sir. They saw our broadcasts. They saw what we did to the. Some of them are offering alliances. Others are offering trade. A few are warning us to stay away from their territory." Nodded slowly. "Forward the friendly ones to the diplomatic corps. Ignore the warnings, and keep monitoring everything. I want to know about any threat before it reaches Earth." "Yes, sir." She paused. "Sir, there's one more thing. The Merchant Collective has issued a statement. They're claiming they acted without authorization. They're offering reparations and asking for peace talks." "They're scared," said with satisfaction. "They sent hunters to eliminate a problem, and the problem eliminated the hunters. Now they don't know what to do." "What should we tell them?" "Tell them we'll consider peace talks, but only on Earth. They want to talk to us, they come to our territory, and they come unarmed." 2 weeks later, a diplomatic vessel from the Merchant Collective arrived in Earth orbit. It carried ambassadors from 12 different species, all nervous about visiting the that had destroyed the. Captain, now promoted to Admiral, met them at the orbital station that humans had built from captured alien technology. Beside him stood Lieutenant, now Captain. Corporal had become Lieutenant. Sergeant was now a Major. Private had received commendations for her sniper work and been promoted to Sergeant. The war had elevated everyone who fought in it. The lead ambassador was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors. It spoke through a translator device. "We come in peace," it said nervously. "The Merchant Collective deeply regrets the misunderstanding that led to violence." "Misunderstanding?" Admiral's voice was cold. "You paid to exterminate us. That's not a misunderstanding, that's attempted genocide. We were misinformed about your species. We did not know you were sentient. You didn't bother to check. You saw a planet you wanted and decided to clear it out like we were insects. That tells me everything I need to know about the Merchant Collective." The ambassador's skin turned a pale color that might have indicated fear. "What do you want from us?" "First, formal recognition of Earth as a sovereign world. Second, reparations for the attempted invasion. Third, full access to galactic trade networks and communication systems. Fourth, return of any humans who might have been taken from Earth in the past." "Those terms are acceptable," the ambassador said quickly. "Is there anything else?" Smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. "Yes, spread the word. Earth is not to be threatened. Humans are not to be hunted. We survived on it for 2 million years. We didn't do that by being weak. We did it by being the most dangerous thing on the planet. And now we're in space. Any species that forgets that lesson will learn it the same way they did." In the detention facility, OK sat with Captain, teaching him about galactic politics and warfare. Over the past 2 weeks, they had formed an unlikely friendship. The alien hunter had found respect for the human warrior. "You will face challenges," OK said. "Many species will see you as a threat now. Some will want to destroy you before you become too powerful." "Let them try," said. "We've been the underdog before. We know how to fight from a weak position." "But you are not weak. That is what they will learn, just as I learned." OK paused. "I have a question. What will you do with us, the prisoners?" "That's up to you. We're offering a choice. Those who want to go home can leave. Those who want to stay and help us understand the galaxy can remain. We'll pay you for your service and treat you fairly." And if we choose to fight you again, looked at him steadily, then we'll hunt you down and capture you again. But I don't think you want that. I think you're smarter than that. OK made a sound that might have been laughter. You are correct. I have learned my lesson. Humans are not prey. I will stay and help you. Perhaps I can teach your warriors some of what I know, and perhaps I can learn more about what makes you so formidable. Deal, said, extending his hand. OK looked at the hand, then carefully took it in his massive clawed hand. They shook, human and alien, former enemies becoming allies. 6 months later, Earth had changed. Human ships patrolled the solar system using a mix of human and alien technology. The elite forces had expanded to include volunteers from every nation. Scientists had reverse-engineered every piece of alien tech they captured, and in many cases, improved it. Admiral Nam commanded Earth's first true space fleet. It wasn't the largest fleet in the galaxy. It wasn't the most advanced, but it was crewed by humans, and that made it dangerous. Captain stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking at the stars. Beside him stood Captain, Lieutenant, and the rest of his command crew. Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from across the galaxy, the communications officer reported. Species requesting alliance, offering trade, asking for protection. Protection asked, from what? From the same pirates and raiders that have terrorized them for decades. Apparently, word has spread about what we did to the... A lot of species think Earth might be able to protect them where others failed. Looked at, what do you think? I think we have an opportunity, said. We can build a coalition of species who want peace. We can show the galaxy that humans aren't just warriors, we're also protectors. But we're definitely still warriors, added with a smile. Always agreed. We're humans, we're from Earth. We survived everything our world threw at us, and now we're ready to take our place among the stars. He looked out at the vast galaxy spread before them. Somewhere out there were allies waiting to be found. Somewhere out there were enemies that didn't yet know they had made a terrible mistake by threatening Earth. But wherever they were, whatever they were, they would all learn the same lesson. Humans were not prey. They were not victims. They were survivors from that forged them into the toughest species the galaxy had ever seen. The galaxy had hunted across worlds for thousands of years. Many species had risen and fallen. Many had conquered and been conquered. But now there was a new power rising. A species that had never asked to be part of the galactic community but would reshape it anyway. A species that had spent 2 million years learning to survive impossible odds. Earth had entered the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The hunters had become the hunted, the prey had become the predator, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to face elite forces. Humanity had arrived, and they were just getting started.